Queer and Frum was a really cool documentary about LGBTQ youth in the Orthodox Jewish community. I really liked the structure of this documentary and how we followed two individuals and their journey of their sexual awakening and accepting of themselves and finding their communities. I like that we focused on two specific people so that we could really just learn about them in depth and get to know them intimately, as opposed to other documentaries may have multiple people that we follow and flip between. But I liked that we stayed with these two people, Chaim and Leva. So I really loved getting to know their stories and them personally. I also thought it was interesting that we heard from the rabbi. So we had these two different perspectives on the subject. I think his perspective is probably a lot more controversial, talking about how he doesn't want to change these people. He just wants to control gay and queer urges as if they were just some other sin that the Bible warns against, which I thought was an interesting perspective, and I think a lot of people in that community probably believe as well. So to contrast that with what Leva and Chaim are talking about, with how much their sexuality is not a choice and how they wish it were different, and they did when they were going through this, they talking about how much it's not just about controlling, it's about who they are. I thought that was a really strong point that's made here, especially with hearing from those two different perspectives. So yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really well done.
Queer and Frum. There's nothing better to open a piece than family home videos and old photos of growing up. There's something so pure and authentic about it, intimate, because it's the things that only those closest to the family will get access to. And a perfect way to introduce us to these people who are going to be sharing something deeply personal. And I felt honored to gain access to this community through this manner. Really important conversations with open and contemplative subjects to express how they traversed the Orthodox community and trying to find more space to embrace themselves in their queerness in their community. It was just really affirming to see the people with the bravery and resilience to keep within the community that they love, but also to show up as themselves in that community. I think we really got to go on the roller coaster of emotions with them, and also getting the perspective from a rabbi of where religion stands on it, standing in support, but also juxtaposition to what some of these subjects was saying, was, I think, a really interesting device in the piece to gain other perspective. Really well-crafted film.
This was a really fascinating documentary. Really puts its finger on the pulse of the Orthodox community, I feel. Does a great job at showing both sides with compassion and understanding, while touching on some, really controversial things as well. I mean, conversion therapy and all that. It's really informative. It plays like a documentary, but it feels very cinematic at times. They do a great job with the editing, a great job with just the interview footage and what they've captured. Just putting it all together in a way that's compelling and interesting, and just really had me engaged the whole time. I thoroughly enjoyed this piece, so great work.
This was a really great documentary. Religion is always something that's deeply fascinated me, and I think there are such positive elements to it. And also, I think there are still quite some negative practices within faith-based practices. This documentary shined a light on both of those sides, and it was well edited and well shot, and it felt very grand and cinematic, and it was a documentary but had something to say on a cinematic scale, and I could definitely see this being sort of adapted to a feature if that ever came up. It was beautiful from start to finish, and I learned things I didn't know about an Orthodox community, so really well done.
So many things about this documentary were notable for me. Um, Firstly, I loved having the perspective of getting, a closer look into a community that we don't really get a lot of access to. And getting to hear directly from these people who were part of the community that had to deal with being gay in a community that does not celebrate being gay, that has very strict rules about how, like, lifestyle and how things should be and what your ideal family looks like. So the pressure is just even more than the average person. I loved getting to hear the individual stories and just seeing how far they have come from beginning to end. Like, it just takes so much courage, because the easiest, or I should say safest way, is to just hide it away and start your family and kind of just live in denial. But they didn't. They followed their truth and came out on the other side. I loved the coming out party and how much joy she had, and just the celebration of all her close friends was really beautiful. On a low note, the what thing that was most heartbreaking for me, but a really great addition to this film, was having the journal, the handwritten journal, and we get to hear their innermost thoughts, and just I'm definitely gay, but I'm not going to do anything about it. Or, I, it was hard. And, the angle with the conversion therapy was so wild, but it was amazing that they didn't just let it happen and keep it kind of this dirty little secret. They actually took action, and they brought a lawsuit, and then they won the case, which was just so incredible, because they saved, oh my gosh, who knows how many people from this awful thing. Knowing that it's still legal in 21, I think it was 21 states, is horrific. But it was really great to see him come into himself, but then also turn it into activism. And how can we help the larger community? And yeah, I just think that, like, these people took us on a full journey, and it was so satisfying at the end. And yeah, again, I loved the unique perspective from this, like, specific community point of view. And yeah, just a wonderful documentary. I learned a lot, and yeah, great film. Thank you.
This was such a cool film. I loved the way that the filmmakers decided to introduce everyone. I thought that was very clever, very smart. It was such a cool film, because they made it very easy for everybody to understand. Like, you didn't need to be Orthodox Jewish to understand and to empathize what these men and women had gone through. It was also really educational. I had never heard of the horror of Jonah. So getting a chance to listen to the experiences of people who had actually gone through that, it's terrifying. It's terrifying it's so terrifying what all of what we do to each other just because of who we're attracted to, or who we are inside, who we feel we are. I'm so glad that it's slowly changing, and we're starting to become more accepting, and that things like Jonah don't exist anymore. So thank you Thank you for making this film. This was really exceptional.
I thought Queer and Frum was a really well-made documentary. I've only ever heard of kind of conversion therapy from a very Christian Catholic lens, so to now hear it from a Jewish perspective, or Orthodox Jew to be more precise, was really interesting. And I think just seeing what these various men had to go through and women had to go through, and how at the end they've all kind of been able to accept themselves and find a community that also accepts them, was something that was really special to watch. So it was a great educational and satisfying watch.